Thank you. This session is going to have a quick look at what could be learned from outside legal. So, Jeremy, to start off with, you've worked in a variety of different roles, huge companies, startups. Can you give us a little bit of a flavour of the sorts of approaches to project management you've seen in these different organisations, what's been successful and what maybe hasn't been so good?
Yeah, sure. So I've kind of worked in organisations which are sort of quite big, complex, and kind of on a number of different geographies, and then quite kind of small startups which are just kind of really kind of getting going. I think actually where I can see that things actually work is where people have a great focus in terms of what they're looking to achieve. They kind of they avoid kind of getting distracted and really kind of stay very much on in terms of task focus. I think kind of clear leadership is clearly kind of part of any kind of successful project or program. Understanding in terms of the kind of who's the decision maker, in terms of the program, what everyone's kind of roles are, and having that kind of role clarity, I think is actually kind of really important. I mean, I've kind of seen major kind of IT programs that haven't gone particularly well, which have kind of taken sort of an eternity to bring something to market, which really wasn't fit for purpose. And you think, well, what was all that about? New kind of approaches to IT development these days of kind of like agile type methodology, where very much rather than actually focusing on this sort of waterfall sequential kind of process, they have very much a sort of iterative process whereby you're having these kind of multifunctional teams, collaborative kind of teams, looking in sort of shorter sort of like timescales to kind of bring things to market in what they call kind of sprints and so on, and very much sort of a different approach where they bring you something and then actually then it's the next sprint and says, okay, well, that's good, but it needs to be it needs to be this and that as well, so let's kind of work on that. And it's kind of you're building it as you go along, which I think it's for IT, I think kind of it works, but I think it can work outside of that as well. It's just really kind of I think being in touch with what is it you're trying to achieve, and just being well organised and actually and using the kind of the multiple kind of talents that you have in an organisation to achieve success. So I think you can be sort of like big companies and actually do that well, or if you're a small company, you have no choice. And typically you don't have a lot of money to kind of like to waste, so you have to be really kind of focused in terms of what is it we're trying to do, and everyone kind of gets it. There's no nonsense in terms of like hierarchies and so on getting in the way. Everyone is really kind of task focused and just gets on with the job really.
Right. Matt, in the sort of the digital age, the sort of proliferation of information, what can businesses do with all that data, both sort of looking back historically and sort of trying to trend things forward as well?
Yeah, so I work at Ogilvy One, which is the digital arm, if you like, of Ogilvy and Mather Group. So Ogilvy is a big marketing services network, essentially. And Ogilvy One, we're doing lots of work with big blue chip clients around digital transformation. It's a big buzzword of the moment, but essentially it's about understanding how businesses and brands can thrive in the digital age, because a lot of organisations and big corporations like sort of American Express, Nestle, these big companies were designed in a different age. They were designed when product was kind of king and silos made sense. Actually now we've entered the age of the customer, which is a piece of work that Forrester have done around it's essentially, and I think we heard it through the keynote around the commoditization of all products. We're finding it too, kind of in the marketing space as well. And a big part of that kind of digital transformation agenda is data. How do brands and businesses use data in smart ways to get closer to their customers? So I'm coming from a marketing sort of perspective, but I think really the key is to understand what you're trying to do with the data. It's very easy to get lost in this just mass of data, and data is just a word, but it's stuff. It's kind of everything. So I think the last panel was talking about pitching, and I think give my perspective on pitching kind of from an advertising agency perspective, but pitching in and understanding your customer, and understanding what data will help you do that. So we do a huge amount of just understanding the clients and the customers for a pitch. Who are they? What network do we have that we can use to understand more about them? Is that going on to LinkedIn? Basic stuff, LinkedIn stalking, as I call it, which probably doesn't sound very good. But essentially, go on LinkedIn, start to understand their background, start to understand kind of how you can cast your team. I think we talked about casting as well. Cast the right team on that. I think so that's just, again, you've got a very clear goal. How can I understand my customer better? And then what is the data that kind of sits beneath that? And I think big data, again, is another buzzword, and I think in marketing we're guilty as well, probably more than others, in terms of the proliferation of marketing, kind of buzzwords, etc. But it's really about understanding what you're trying to achieve, and then what structured and unstructured data is there out there to kind of achieve your goals, whether that's from our perspective as an advertising marketing services agency trying to win more business, or whether that's on behalf of our brands and businesses that we work with. Again, how can they get closer to their customer? How can they understand their customer better? The social and digital media, that proliferation, we all pour data into those social networks, whether we know it or not. Sometimes, but essentially that data is there and available. Now, the watch out there is to not get lost in the data, because it's very easy, and all of a sudden you're doing these reports and you're trying to you're just going, oh look, let's look at some more kind of reams of data, and you've lost sight of it. So it's kind of a watch out how you do that.
Interesting. Quinton, Matt mentioned a few different sort of technological evolutions, and what does that sort of changing landscape, how do you see that from, I guess, an information security standpoint, or even in terms of sort of driving efficiencies within your organisation? Because I imagine your people want mobile devices, they want access to social media, all that kind of thing. How's that impacting your business?
Well, it's changed us dramatically. If I can refer back to what David Bateson said in the previous panel, 10 years ago when we first started, we were using Blackberries. It was very much the department security of the department would know, and you just couldn't get hold of certain things. But now we've changed dramatically. And to reflect on something you were saying about the difference in development, I would strongly suggest people look up Mode 1, Mode 2 development, because it's very, very important to understand what that sort of new sort of Mode 2 development is about this new iterative, much faster, do, learn, do, it's okay to fail, but fail fast. But also then understand that whilst there is Mode 2, there is always Mode 1 development, which is your traditional development. And some of your systems will be absolutely suitable for doing Mode 2 development, and some of your systems, if you do Mode 2 development, well, that'll be the end of you. You've got to keep them. You've got systems of record, systems of innovation. If you're systems of record, you do your Mode 1 development there, because you want to do very careful, controlled. That's your key financial systems. Ones over here could be your marketing systems. Hey, you know what? If a marketing site fails halfway through, it doesn't make an awful lot of difference. It's been embarrassing, but you'll recover.
It's very embarrassing.
If you're, yes, but you will recover.
Tell that to my clients.
But you will recover. Whereas if your key financial system fails just for a billing run, that could have much more significant impacts. The other thing I'd say as well is, a lot of people come in and we talk about the curse of the shiny, where they know what they want, but they don't know what they want. People come in and they say, I want this shiny cloud service. And you say, really? Actually, you want the shiny cloud service, but actually, can we talk about the outcome? What are you actually trying to do? And when you start to flip it around to say outcomes focused, you start to say outcome focused IT, suddenly you start to have much more actually happy customers. Because really you're saying to them, look, what are you actually trying to do? I want to understand what it is you're trying to do. And also you can't then turn around and say, you want to access your email and a calendar. Well, you know what? This smartphone will probably do it, and I know you want the new iPhone 7 with the little earbuddy things, but this one will probably do it. Don't forget the fact that sometimes that feeling good about the tech is actually part of the thing as well. If you've got senior business people who need to wander in and talk to clients, if they suddenly go in and they lift out their clunky old machine and go, hang on a second, just waiting for the thing to power up, that's not going to look good in front of a client. If you're showing as a high-tech company, they need to have the latest and greatest, and let them know that.
Before we open up for some questions, I just wanted to touch on pricing and pitching to start off with. What approaches are successful? How you're tailoring certain things to client demands. Matt, for example, I saw recently the news about Omnicom winning business with McDonald's. Not offering any fee at all and having their sort of remuneration purely on a sort of performance basis. Is that a sustainable model, do you think, or is that sort of creativity needed in such a competitive environment now?
It's a great question, and I think the other panel touched on kind of charging based on outputs, not inputs, and essentially we in advertising have done the same. That's been the model, right? You have a rate card, you have a shed load of kind of different layers of people, because then you can make money from in our kind of the traditional way of doing advertising and digital marketing. You just kind of chuck a load of account handlers at it at different levels, and that's where you make your fee, because you just kind of chuck people at it. Where clients are moving to, and it's right that they've moved to it, is and the procurement department is king now in all of these big kind of corporations. They're moving. It's like a race to the bottom, because if they're just going to keep asking to cut costs on the inputs, you're just going to race to the bottom. You're not going to kind of grow. You're not going to hit your profit margin. And essentially, what we need to move to, and this is where the Omnicom deal was really interesting, is much more of an output model, much more of an outcome-based model. I think skin in the game is really interesting, and it's something that we've done within our agency, performance-based remuneration. Now the whole fee isn't up for grabs. That's like a bonus-related sort of scheme. But I think where we're headed is much more of an output-based model, especially in the digital world, where and to the point around iteration and iterative kind of development, we're starting to kind of scope projects in different ways. So, as an example, we did one for a big asset management company used to doing waterfall sort of development, and essentially we set up an 8-week sprint. Now in that sprint there was strategy and kind of the creative bit. So rather than having the usual in our world, it's like, there's 2 weeks to write the brief, 3 weeks to come up with the idea, and then however long to kind of produce the idea, and then you get it out the door. Where we're starting to move towards is much more of a collaborative, iterative model. I know that Lean is one of the kind of education streams coming up. Lean and Agile as well, buzzwords, and people kind of use them interchangeably. But what we're starting to see is some savvier clients in the digital space who are going, I'm comfortable with not actually knowing what I'm specifically going to get, but I'm comfortable in the direction that you're going to take me. I'm comfortable in the team. And as part of that 8-week sprint, we had a team of 4. So we didn't have a massive team on that. So that helps in a number of ways. One, you work much quicker and you get to the outcomes much quicker, and you have to work collaboratively with the client. It's important you have a good project person in the digital space. From their perspective, understands how you make decisions in the room. If you're not in the room, then the decision kind of moves on. But also from margin perspective, so one, you get the best sort of work from working closely in smaller teams, and it's not siloed and passed on. It's done in the room together. But also, you're not, you can charge that output at whatever rate you deem, and essentially you can service that with a team of hybrid people. And this is where it's important to have a better quality of person rather than just chucking volume and to the point of the other panel, like understanding what value you can kind of give from is it at the quality end or the quantity end. So yeah.
Interesting. Jeremy, from your perspective, do the successful pricing and pitching approaches vary between sort of the much larger organisations that I guess to some extent can rely on having a marquee brand, and maybe some of the smaller startups that need to differentiate themselves, be a bit more creative?
I think kind of pricing is always kind of, it's a critical element of. If I think of my kind of the larger companies I've worked with, then it's a critical piece to get right, and I think that you can have quite a lot of kind of creativity around kind of pricing. I think the sort of the results-based approach just kind of touched on, is a really interesting kind of model, or the kind of really in picking up some of the earlier speakers' comments about that sort of what's important for the client, what are they interested in, what's the output they're looking, and can you kind of you tie your success to actually kind of achieving that that kind of output. I think in terms of where I've kind of been involved in successful kind of pitches for kind of major kind of pieces of business, then the investment we kind of put in ahead of time to kind of really to understand what are those kind of clients' pain points, the kind of real kind of their priority areas, and really to sort of creatively think that so crafting what we're about in terms of how we can help them kind of achieve that. And then have pricing which actually shows that you have got some of that kind of skin in the game. Either it's a sort of it's an investment that that you've as I say you've made ahead of time, or you're actually kind of showing that there's some funding or a sort of a chunk of work that you're prepared to do to help that client to actually achieve the whatever the kind of the business goal that they've been kind of focused on. And I think it's just really getting your being tuned into what's important for the client. What are their sort of hot buttons? I think earlier you heard the comments from people in terms of who are the decision makers, and let's make sure you're getting you're understanding who are the kind of the key people making those decisions and what's important for them. I think as I say sort of in terms of in a smaller companies, pricing decisions tend to be sort of quite everything seems to be sort of much more kind of simple, and so typically you're having the understanding of your kind of costs is kind of key. The market kind of pricing in terms of what other alternatives are, and just to be very kind of metrics kind of based really in terms of actually understanding the kind of, as I say, the drivers for your kind of your business, making sure that you are you're covering those, you've got a reasonable kind of margin, but actually you're not pricing yourself out.
Quentin, how does your organisation view innovation and sort of reviewing internal processes, and whether, as an organisation, are you looking to innovate, or do you want to do something that's sort of a little bit more tried and tested? What's your kind of approach?
No, I'm glad you asked me that actually, because in one of my roles, I'm actually the legal business partner for IT to legal, and one of the areas I've been working on at the moment is to help them to document their processes. Because when you come from an IT area, especially if I don't work in operations, but I used to years ago, and you couldn't imagine working without having run books, playbooks, without having exact ways that you do certain things, so that you document how you do certain repeatable tasks all the time. So if a new person comes in, or you're following the process, and you know and trust that everyone's following the right processes. And I think, I don't know if it's, that's just something that seems to be alien, and talking to other law firms as well, and talking to people who are pitching, and you say, what's your playbook for A or for B or for C, and they're very reticent to start discussing these sort of like standardized things. So standardization, I think, is absolutely critical, because if you can't standardize, then you can't innovate against that. Just on the innovation side, I think that IT has huge amounts to offer, and especially the smaller law firms, as well as the larger law firms, because things like the cloud gives even the smaller law firm or the smaller company the power to actually have the applications that the bigger firms depend upon. So, I'm going to mention some names here. Others are available. I have no shares in any of these companies, but I thought I'd just throw some out there. So like Salesforce, for example. Other ones are out there, I think. Anyone can get that with a credit card or with an RFP or whatever else you want to do. You can just get access straight in there. Things like Office 365. Who gets fat running mail? You don't. Running mail and running collaboration tools is not something, unless you're Microsoft or Google, which is really going to make you money. So why are you doing it internally? Why aren't you having someone else do that? Things like hosting. No one gets, unless you're a hosting company, no one earns money doing hosting. Get someone else to do it. They can do it much faster. They've industrialized these things. And it's about working out which are the things that you used to traditionally do inside, because, well, you've always done it that way, and saying, actually, why would we do these things this way? Take, for example, a law firm. Inbound mail processing. I know that a lot of law firms spend a lot of money because they have to have someone who has to open up the letters, read what they are, work out which partner that goes to, tag it with the right things, put it in the database and send it off. All that lot is automatable. okay, the physical opening of the letters. I'm not sure if you can have a machine that can actually tear the top off, take the things off, and scan them. Probably there is one. I'm going to get shot by our product people saying, no, we have that. But I haven't seen that. It's coming. But actual fact, all of that can be done by relatively low cost staff, and then you can actually have the actual automation and the workflows. It can just drop into there. So we talked about automation of lawyers. Everyone heard about the robo-lawyer that was fighting parking tickets in Lambeth. Everyone heard about that one? It wasn't particularly hard. It was just an expert system that said, so you've received this was free, by the way. You've received a parking ticket, and it just asks you a whole load of different questions, and at the end it would say, fight it, pay it. And that saved apparently £150,000 every year for the people who went there. And you think, wow, could that kind of technology, that robo-lawyer technology, be used internally? Take, for example, with standard contracts or standard non-disclosure agreements. Could you not have a SharePoint site, because you could build this in SharePoint, doing a robo-lawyer kind of thing, saying what's the value of the contract, who's got the IP, boom, 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 here's your standard contract, you don't need one, or here's your standard NDA. These are kind of things where you might have a real qualified professional lawyer doing that actually you don't probably need to have someone doing it.
Moving on then, Matt. So, over the last few years, how has sort of the operations, your business, how has it changed, and what are the sort of the drivers for that? Is it sort of increased competition, different technology? What's really been sort of driving the evolution of your business?
Well, I touched on it earlier. I think we're in a very challenging time at the moment in terms of procurement of the big brands, kind of because they're struggling as well, and they're facing kind of new challenges of the new world. So therefore they have to make savings, and you make savings on the kind of services or the external parties, and you think, how much can you do in-house? And that's always the debate with agencies, how much of the stuff can you do with your marketing operation internally, and how much can you do kind of externally. I mean, it's like I say, it's challenging times, because on the one hand clients want great work, but they want it at at a reasonable price, and it's that whole price cost value kind of conundrum. I think operationally what they're wanting is, I mean, it's speed, it's quality, it's a good relationship, and it's also a more collaborative sort of model. So operationally we have things called client leadership teams. So traditionally in the past the account guy would manage all the money, the relationship and the money, and then he would go internally and get the creative team, get a planner or a strategist to write the creative brief, get the team, get the production guy to make the asset, whether it's an ad or a website, whatever it might be. And it was very much he was at the top, and then he just farmed it out. Where we're moving to, and where we have moved to, is a much more kind of collaborative model, a client leadership team, where a client specifically, so I'm a member of one of our account kind of leadership teams. I'm a strategist person, kind of from my background, but there's a kind of a relationship person, a strategy person, a creative person, delivery person, who all have a vested interest in driving the growth of that account. This is not the account, because in the past it's been the account guy's responsibility. So as a result of the tougher climate in which we live, we all must be kind of part of that client team. We all must be kind of able to go and speak to clients, which traditionally with creative teams is sometimes a challenge with some of the old school traditional kind of more traditional teams who are just rude to clients and aren't client friendly, if you like. So we're having to move to a much more grown up model, to be honest, damn it. But essentially, there's what the client kind of needs and wants and expects, but there's also how do we service that client in the best way operationally, and it's very much about smaller teams, hub kind of teams, to kind of bring together then the right people from across the agency, because those 4 people can't do all the work, but there's much more of a shared responsibility across that team, and that's really important, because we've all done commercial kind of skills training, which was fun. But no, it was important that everyone understood how, when our product is time, it's time to produce assets, creative assets, and if we're not all bought into that kind of notion of how we make money, and we all make decisions every day about the time we invest in projects and how much we spend. So there's kind of that education layer which has been important too.
Okay. I think just to close off last few minutes, if we could go along the panel and just get your sort of closing thoughts on one or two key areas where your business does something particularly well that maybe some of the participants here from the legal industry might be able to sort of to benefit from. If we start at the end, Jeremy, preferably beginning with P if you can.
Beginning with P. I think actually then pitching, I think, is obviously then, you know, for me, and the winning and the retaining kind of business is kind of, you know, is critical. And that, I think, for me, you know, begins and ends with the customer. Really, very much in terms of understanding those pain points. And you can MVP. And those priorities and so on, you know, that actually are important for your client, and make that just kind of, you know, center everything around that in terms of, okay, how are you helping them to actually sort of, you know, to deal with that sort of set of issues. So that's kind of, you know, that's the set of P's I would kind of focus on. Right?
Excellent. Quentin?
I'd say be part of the process, both in my team and in our legal team. They're part of the sales process. I have a small part of my team who is part of the complete sales process. So if you send in an RFP, my team will actually review that. If you want to talk security on a print product or anything else, my team will do that. And when this really hit home to me was a couple of years ago when one of our business people won a President's Award for winning a major contract. And of course, the two sales guys, both directors, got up onto stage, and so everyone's clapping and everything else. And they sort of gestured some other people up onto stage, and front and centre was actually the legal partner who had actually helped negotiate the contract. And that was a really that was a real moment where I went, yeah, that's what we need to do. So be part of that sales process and be in there. Everyone is a salesperson if you're working for the company.
Excellent. Matt?
I'll take people as my P. So, and you know, I think it's a bit of a cliche to say it's all about the people, but it really is, and especially as we're moving to, you know, technology's change. It's just nuts. I can't keep up with the pace of change, and it's only going to increase exponentially. And you ain't seen nothing yet. And this is where business and brands, big corporations, big institutions are struggling with the pace of change, and that's why digital transformation is so important. And it's not going to be a one-off transformation. You know, transformation will just be the norm. And so you have to look at process and always be understanding: are we doing? You know, can we learn from outside? You know, can we do things better? But really, you can't do any of that without the right people. So that people, it's about the quality of that person, the skills they have. But it's really about their ability to be flexible, to be able to embrace change, to have a go at stuff, to not go, oh well, I can't do that because it's not my bit. I mean, I encourage my team to, you know, because I've kind of, you know, busted it as I've gone, made up as I've gone along. I've, you know, run kind of a social media agency, not having known a lot about social media, but you just get into it, right? And that's a mindset thing, and that's where I can see that in my agency, the types of people who have that mindset. Skill set is one thing, but mindset is the really important thing in kind of today's age.
Thank you.